Olá pessoal, estamos aqui com mais um episódio do Eólica Offshore Inteligente e nessa edição nós temos conosco o Feng do GWEC e nós faremos esse episódio, a condução desse episódio em inglês, não é, Matheus?
É isso mesmo, pessoal. O Feng veio direto aqui do exterior para o nosso podcast, justamente para divulgar essa experiência internacional aqui para a gente.
Okay, and then jumping to English now, Feng. Thanks so much for being part of our podcast. It's amazing having a chance to have you here in Brazil. I know you came for Brazil Wind Power, but we couldn't lose the opportunity to invite you to our podcast and have such a talented person like you here. Feng, welcome to our podcast. We want to hear a bit from you and what you've been doing in GWEC in the last years.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here. It's my first trip in Sao Paulo. Everything is different, gigantic city, so I'm enjoying myself. So I'm very happy to sitting here with you, Matthias, and for this podcast. So as you mentioned, my name is Feng. I'm a Chinese by blood and passport, but I'm working and living in Denmark. This is my year 22. So I took the role as head of strategy and market intelligence. And a year ago, I just changed my title as Chief Research Officer, but nothing changed about what I've been following on a daily basis. So I'm a wind guy working for the wind industry for 20 years. Happy to join this conversation and did a contribution to accelerate the offshore wind development here in Latin America, primarily Brazil, the key market.
The key market, definitely, Feng. And we're really glad to have you here. Especially, I told you, I read your reports and all the stuff you do since I was a child, if I can say this, my friend. And then I'm really happy to have you here. I'm here with Matheus as well. He's been reading all the reports from GWEC. It's been amazing. So, Feng, to start our conversation, we want to understand how is the currently scenario of offshore wind energy? Well, how is the panorama of this industry nowadays and how countries are exploring this technology? Could you start giving us a brief overview about it?
Absolutely. I think you guys know where the offshore wind started, actually from where I live today in Denmark. The first commercial offshore wind project installed in 1991 in Denmark. So, but of course it takes like a decade to bring the offshore wind industry to where we are. You could call offshore wind is no longer a niche technology. Basically, it has become one of the mainstream renewable solutions to support the transition. So over the past 40 years, the offshore wind has been growing. It's not a planned journey up and down, but luckily, with the strong growth from APAC region, primarily China, follow up a bit about Japan, South Korea. So we can see that. And today, the statistics released by GWEC Global Offshore Report across the globe, we have more than 83 gigawatt installed. Last year alone, we had 8 gigawatt. Half of that is from one single market, China. Of course, China is huge. Everything's huge there. It's the largest market for installation for both onshore, offshore, and also the largest supply chain you can get for both onshore and offshore. So where the wind is going to blow, I think looking at the offshore wind market, we have to be honest. The industry is suffering a bit at this moment, primarily I think due to the inflation, microeconomic challenge. This has been there since Russia invaded Ukraine. I think since Trump took over the office, I think due to the policy inconsistent, bring extra layer of the challenge for the industry. We do see, project has been canceled in terms of, purchase pipeline. We see this slowdown, and some of the developers didn't even show up for auctions in Europe, like Denmark, Germany, and most recently Netherlands for good reasons. But I mean, fundamentally, since nothing changed, even though we downgrade our projection by 45% compared with previous years. But again, I think we believe that this year, 2025 alone, we're going to have more than probably 12 gigawatt compared with 8 gigawatt last year. And by 2030, the industry is ready to pass like 30 gigawatt. It's going to be a new record by probably 2035, in 10 years' time. Across global, you're going to see an annual installation of offshore wind are going to pass 50 gigawatt. So again, guys, I mean, there is a bumper on the road, but not cannot be stoppable. We're looking forward, I mean, to working with more potential offshore wind market. Brazil, absolutely, that's going to be a star in this region, followed up by Colombia, also Chile, and Mexico. Yeah, finger crossed and good luck for this journey.
Fingers crossed. I like your positivity, Feng, but also the momentum we're living brings us to scale up this energy transition, which has been really interesting because we have 83 gigawatts and a good expectation for the next coming years. Really interesting. And Feng, you mentioned some issues about geopolitical things and about how US is diving into this market, some questions regarding to Russia and Ukraine. But we want to listen to you. What are the main trends in this market of offshore wind energy? We know that we have Mingyang releasing turbines of 16 megawatts. We're going to have a person here from Mingyang too. But we want to listen from you. What are these trends? What are the expectations regarding these trends for the next 10 years, if I can say this, right?
Yeah, let's start with the trends in terms of growth. I mentioned that the offshore wind market is become already a mainstream solution. If you're looking at the next 10 years, I think offshore wind is not just a game in Europe. That's where offshore wind start, and then followed up by APAC region, where you got China support with the contribution by South Korea and Japan. Though next 10 years, I know I said there's a challenge time in the US, but we still believe that if things goes well, minimum 5 gigawatt can be built in the US offshore wind market between now and 2030. And then across the global, looking at the growth market, I think there are a lot of, stars coming in what we call emerging or new market. So in APAC region, in addition to China, South Korea, and Japan, you have Philippines. They just launched auctions. Vietnam is ready to coming back after the first round of the installation for intertidal project. Australia, I know it's a bit disappointing, Victoria, they just postpone the CBIT auctions, but looking at the pipeline of for offshore wind, I think it will come sooner or later. If not within 5 years, I think start from the beginning of 2030s, you are going to see offshore wind market growth in APAC region alone will be 5, 6 shining star over there. And then it's Latin America. As I mentioned earlier, Brazil, we got the big faith and belief and confident for the growth moving forward, and also Colombia, Chile, Mexico. Also back home, in Europe, right now, I think the floating wind is not ready, but with the auctions awarded last year, that's the first time I want to mention. It's the first time in a single year we have more than 1 gigawatt floating wind awarded through the auctions.
My gosh, we have to celebrate. We even brought a floating turbine here,
exactly.
right?
I'm glad to see this. The turbine spanning over there. You got 700 megawatt awarded in South Korea. Also in France, 400 megawatt awarded in the UK Ep.6. We expect to have more. For example, the UK government just launched the budget for floating wind this year. So maybe in the beginning of next year, we're going to see another couple of hundreds of floating wind to be awarded. This gives us the confidence that floating wind potentially, I think it's possible to reach the commercialization before the end of this decade, if not 2029, 2030, absolutely, because we see this is not just a game in Europe, and we also see it in Japan, South Korea, also China, moving forward. Why not America? Because there are a lot of deep waters, for example, in Chile, also in Brazil and Argentina. So it's going to be interesting technology revolution. But looking at technology or supply chain, I think that's another trend I want to mention. I was in China, at China Wind Power 2 weeks ago, where the Chinese Mingyang, they are the number 2 offshore wind turbine producer in terms of cumulative installation. They launched the Ocean X. It's V-shape, the beautiful, V-shape design. Instead of have like the small rotor, this time they introduce like the rotors with the output for each nacelle, that's 25 megawatt. So just within one floater, it's
25 megawatts
each rotor. So that means like 50 megawatt just for one floating. Imagine at the very beginning, probably you need a really big commercial scale offshore wind project to just compete with one single floating foundation. My God, I think it's impressive. But are we going to see the even bigger turbine to be introduced across global? I think we discussed with BNF guys at the Chinese offshore wind conference 2 weeks ago. I think we come into a kind of conclusion. Most likely 25 probably will be the benchmark turbine or mainstream product for the next 10 years. Even another crazy Chinese called Dongfang, they just launched this 26 megawatt turbine last year. Just get this turbine grid connected actually 5 days ago. No matter what, I think something between 20 to 25 or 26, that pretty much will be the mainstay technology. Looking at the European market, right now like 14 to 15 megawatt remain the mainstream product, but SGRE, the leaders for offshore wind turbine production, they already installed that 21 megawatt prototype in Denmark. I think bigger is good. Sometimes people say bigger is better, stronger, but that's in terms of size. But in terms of reliability, I think it takes time to see if bigger is better. So in general, I think at GWEC we promote, we need to think about the standardization. We need to think about reliability, and across industry, we need to make sure that whatever technology is available, we need to make sure it's reliable and can help to achieve economic scale. So that's where the supply chain can survive, at least to make the money. Currently, it's a challenging time for everyone across the entire supply chain, including the component supplier, turbine OEM. So there are many ways we can help. I mean, even help ourselves. So we're looking forward, working together across global. So yeah, I think excellent technology over there. I really hope next time when I come here to in Brazil, we're going to see the prototype, no matter fixed bottom or floating wind, is installed up and spinning.
Wonderful. Feng, at this point, standardization, scaling up the technology, challenges related to the supply, not always bigger is better, right? We have to prepare all the infrastructure for it. Otherwise, it will be difficult to still develop this technology. Really interesting, Feng. You're such a genius on offshore wind. We really like to listen to you. But I guess Mateus has some questions as well.
Yes. In this context that you mentioned, how artificial intelligence and robotics could support the offshore wind in the next years? What's your opinion about it?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, each single conversation has to have, AI. I mean, AI, what I call, intelligent, artificial intelligence. It's a kind of, a popular term like that, but for the offshore wind industry or wind industry in general, it's not new. I mean, we talk about smart turbine, smart wind farm. It has something to do. So if you're looking at what the turbine OEM is working on, I think it makes a lot of sense. For example, another brilliant the Chinese turbine OEM Evision, they just launched what they call the AI wind turbine 2 weeks ago at China Wind Power. I think for good reasons. So think about this way. We are approaching 2030 to achieve the Paris Agreement, but we do have even long-term target that's carbon neutrality by 2050. If we reach that stage, which means that, renewable are going to make up the majority, more than 85% of the electricity mix. What does this mean? Which means that, the system got to be ready to accommodate, what you call the flexible generation. So to help the grid operator, working together with the flexible generation, from the industry part, we do need to think about, what we can offer on the table. So that's why the AI turbine come in, which means that we need a precise projection in terms of generation. This will help the operators to receive and accommodate the flexible, generation. That's one thing. Moving forward, today I think most of the offshore project they got to some extent supported by fixed or guaranteed PPA price, but in the future you're going to compete with everything. That's what we're going to see. It's already start in China actually today, which means that you got to have a smart turbine which can understand, can project the projection, and also the turbine with storage. They can help to capitalize the up and down in terms of the what you call the spot market price. So turbine got to be smart. When need to generate the most of power to capitalize the highest PPA, and when to save the energy. So that's from the generation side. We need to working with the smart generation. Higher AEP flexibility, make sure that the developer can make the money, make the offshore wind commercially available. And from the operation part, I think that's also crucial. You imagine, you go out into the wind farm, already you see the utility, they send out the drone. This drone is not just a small drone, we just can take a picture for blades repair, of course. That's important for preventative or predictive blades maintenance. So for failure, so we can prevent the damage beforehand. But today, you see even bigger drone out there. For example, the two leading utility in the offshore wind farm. It's global. Number one, Ørsted. Number two, RWE. They have the damn drone. It's huge. That can take like between 10 to 50 kilogram spare part. I mean, that's another way to save the cost and bring up the efficiency, because offshore, the more offshore when we install the further from the shore, which means that we have to watch out the distance and watch out the operation windows, what you call weather windows. So have this strong robotics available, actually absolutely can cut off the cost of OPEX. So again, this we already discussed smart turbine, AI turbine. We are talking about the drone, etc. Moving forward, I think we're going to see more solution available. It's offshore wind is still I'm not going to say it's an untouched territory, but compared with onshore, there are many ways we need to looking at. So for offshore wind, it's not just a turbine. I think I'm glad Matthias, you mentioned there are also, in addition to turbine, you got port, you got vessels. Imagine for smart planning in terms of future vessels, when offshore wind becomes a truly mainstream technology, you do have to have the AI for coordination in terms of wind farm, operation. So again, I think there are many things we need to think about. There are a lot of technology out there. I'm a Chinese, as mentioned. I'm proud to see China is taking the lead in terms of technology. So there are a lot of bad words or fears about the Chinese coming after Russia invading Ukraine. But man, we're human beings. We got a single rules here in terms of how to make the world a better place. There are a lot of conspiracy out there. But for the industry alone, GWEC, we're promoting the open door trade. We want to make sure that we have the best practice shared across the global. One day, I really want to see, more offshore wind turbine solution installed across global. Primarily in Latin America, we have 5 turbine Chinese exhibited last week at the Brazil Wind Power. So I believe that with this, exciting technology deployed across global, primarily in those emerging markets, we're going to see one day, very soon, offshore wind become a truly global industry. Obrigado.
No, yeah, you're great. You're great. And definitely, I think we're all in the same path, the path of energy transition and scaled decarbonization in the industries. That's my perspective for sure. And I think it's your perspective too,
it's true.
by what you guys are saying. And definitely, we were mentioning about applications related to generation, to operation, and also infrastructure. Having digital twins, we wrote in this book that you see here, Feng, if you can just show to the cameras. This is an executive summary. You guys can access this in our Instagram. We're gonna let this on the description of the episode. But as long as we're almost finishing and running out of time over here, Feng, we would like you give us a last message, right, Matheus?
Yes, that's it.
A last message about what are the next steps for countries to look offshore wind energy and opportunities this technology can open to their countries and their territories.
Yeah, I think looking at where we're at today, in general, Europe, that's the birthplace of offshore wind. China catch up, become even stronger and bigger. So, we cannot afford industry just relying on 2 key markets. So, for the next stage, I think from GWEC perspective, we're really pushing for the growth in the emerging market in APAC region. And let's start with Europe. I think even it's mature, but still we have some emerging market out there. I think Poland, including, their untouched territory, including Portugal, Spain. We have floating, potential there. Also Norway, full of oil and gas industry expertise. Why not use it? And then APAC region, that's I mentioned earlier. We're really driving the growth, looking at opportunity there in Philippines, Vietnam, in 10 years' time, Australia, in LATAM regions. That's absolutely Brazil, Colombia, Chile, and Mexico. I know it's a challenge for the U.S., but at least by the end of this decade, 2030, they are going to have something around 6 gigawatts up and running. It's a lesson learned. I know there's a political challenge out there, but Trump cannot stay in the White House forever, right? So I hope one day a smart person who care about climate will take over the office and do something good. Potentially, I think there's still growth opportunity in the United States as well, and also it's labor country. Canada, most recently, they plan to launch this seabed leasing. Let's see, as I mentioned, it's going to be a global game. That's what we need for global transition.
Okay, thank you so much, Feng. It was a great pleasure having you here and having your messages. And I hope these messages can be spread to all the world, because we're trying to build a very strong industry over here. Thank you so much. And guys, wait for you in the next episode of Eólica Offshore Inteligente. Muito obrigado. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado.